Hey y'all, it's Gil here with the Sailing Vessel Dream Chaser, and in this week's episode, we are going to set sail. We're going to get out of the boatyard, we're going to finish the tasks, at least enough to sail her home. I can assure you by the end of this video, we will be out on the water. We can't be more excited. If you remember in last week's video, we were doing a bunch of small work. We were making some epoxy plugs to finish doing the stanchion bases. We were testing out the sails. I called it slip sailing. We cut slots in the mizzen mast for the new sail slugs, and just a myriad of other small tasks. This week was no different. We still had to get a lot of little things done before we could ultimately set sail, and we knew we were going to be setting sail without the boat completely stowed away the way you typically would if we were going to be doing any kind of offshore voyage, for sure. But we thought, we're just crossing the lake, let's just get her home already. So here's what it looks like when we take an entire day's worth of work on the security footage in the camera, and we just fast forward it through 60 seconds. You can see the amount of work we're doing, up the stairs, down the stairs, even out of cabinets, etc. A lot of work going on. We really just divided and conquered. Deb had her list of tasks, I have my list of tasks. We even had the kids helping with some of it, preparing things in their room and whatnot. I was up top doing some work, I came back down. Something's not right with the picture. Let me show you what I saw them working.
So here's what it looks like. I went ahead and took the tape off of it, and you see this angled line. And a little bit of the epoxy kind of ran down over that modeling clay, but that white line is the actual modeling clay. And I'm going to use a screwdriver and separate these. We'll see how that works. So I'm just going to find my line right here, see if I can pry it in. I was able to very easily. And this top piece should be the plug I need. I'll go check it for fit in a minute. I need to do a quick sand on this. Same with this, I gotta find my little spot here. Alright, so there they are. I'll go clean them up here in a second.
So a couple weeks ago, we watched a guy in a 49-foot boat try and pull out of the yard, and he actually struggled a little bit making the turn with a little bit of wind. So we have one last thing to do, and that's to test our bow thruster. The good news is she seems to be working well, and it looks like we'll be able to rely on her if we need her tomorrow morning. But tomorrow, we set sail. And with that, we head back over the lake by car for hopefully the last time for trips back down to the yard for a major refit. So enjoy the sun setting over Lake Ponchartrain. So it's early the next morning, well, I guess not so early, about 9:30, and we got down to the boat and had a couple of things to do to still prepare, including putting on the mizzen sail. So Deb and I are just getting it bended onto the mast itself. And lovely bride is getting ready to take the sail covers off. Wave, baby. This day has been a long time in the making. We're excited. 10.5 months or so we've been in the yard, and we just motored out, and we are about to go full suite of sails here. I don't have my sea legs, I'm telling you that right now. Such relaxation now that we have the sails up, but I will tell you, it's a little nerve-wracking with little ones. You'll notice McKinley has a tether and a life jacket on. So underneath her life jacket is a harness, and then it has about a 4-foot tether that connects to the actual jack line that's on the deck. And while she doesn't always like that, it certainly is a way for us to feel a lot more comfortable that she cannot possibly go off the side of the boat.
It's got a 1-7 thing, Blue Dolphin. 817.
So I must admit, the worst part about all of this is we really don't know how to sail this boat all that well. So after we put the main up, we wanted to roll out the jib, and we sailed with the jib down to the yard 11 months ago for the second time we ever put the jib out. And I kept having a hard time with it. It just didn't seem like it was getting tight, and it wasn't set correctly. And then I happened to notice that I didn't have the halyard cleated off very well, so it had started to drop a little bit. And that's the reason why I couldn't get good tension on it. You know, again, just little silly things like that. I ended up correcting it. I don't have all this on video because it was kind of hard to see on the forward side of the mast, but I had to correct it before I could ultimately, you know, I had to loosen the jib sheet, raise the halyard all the way back up to the top. I had to have Deb, you know, turn into the wind, raise the halyard to the top, and then go ahead and retension the jib sheet, and then it felt a lot better. I really wanted to put up all 4 sails. It was just something that I felt very strongly that we had to do leaving the yard. So we put the main up first, then we went with the jib.
I would be doing some serious lying if I didn't say I was pretty thrilled to be able to be out here today. We have finally left the dock. The boat is out of the yard. We've got the main, the mizzen, and the jib out. I'm about to throw up the interstacial and go full suite here. So, exciting stuff. Yeah, we just had this squall come on by us, so we doused all the sails, which takes a few minutes when there's 4 of them up. So anyway, we got it doused in time, and we're just motoring now toward the Causeway Bridge. We'll have to have it open. Say it's awful rolly without the sails. The gimbaled camera doesn't quite show it as well, but see if I can show behind me if it shows any better. Yeah, it was the waves aren't too big, maybe 3 feet. It's just, on Lake Ponchartrain, they're always narrow and steep just because it's a fresh body of water. It's fetch, you know, it's not swell, it's just fetch. But, yeah, you can see, it's definitely rolling. Makes it a little harder to see the crab pots like this, though. It's the only downside.
So I gotta tell you, it's funny, anytime you're looking at footage of waves or wind or anything like that, it never looks as bad as it really was. These were pretty steep waves right next to each other, and, you know, I'm not exaggerating, they were very rolly given how steep and how close together they were. So here, I'm just filming this for a minute. I've got the camera on a gimbal, so the horizon's staying still, but you can see the boat sort of pitching back and forth with these. I turned the sound way down on the camera here just so that you can actually hear me talking, but we were starting to see gusts at about 35 knots right on the edge of this front. So, you know, we were safe, but it was definitely blowing pretty hard. Because we were fairly close to the bridge, we left all the sails in and called the bridge tender. The way you typically do this is you call on whatever the hailing channel is for that particular area, and it's usually, you know, Ponchartrain bridge tender, Ponchartrain bridge tender, Ponchartrain bridge tender, this is the sailing vessel, blah, blah, blah. So that's the typical approach. And when I called him, he asked me to just go ahead and get in the fairway and kind of hold tight until he could stop traffic. So I noticed that the gates were starting to go up here.
Alright, Storm Chaser, you can start coming through.
I hope you changing my boat name to Storm Chaser isn't an omen.
Dream Chaser, sorry. Sorry about that, Captain.
That's right, I'm just being funny.
I was having a little fun with the bridge tender there who got the name of the boat wrong. I thought it was kind of funny. He accidentally called it Storm Chaser rather than Dream Chaser. And given the little squalls that we've been kind of fighting as we were coming across the lake, I thought that was appropriate and maybe even a little funny, and just wanted to give him a hard time. So, as you can see, we are approaching the waterway, and it's actually pretty rough in here. I was just surprised at how big the swell was right inside of here. The water was running through it pretty good. But I'll just be quiet a minute and listen to the sound of the water. As you pass through the bridge and start to clear it, they'll sound a siren stating they're closing the bridge. Alright, with that we are now clear of the bridge, and we're going to start to angle to the north. We don't want to run directly parallel to the bridge because there's a 1-mile fairway along the edge of it. So we went ahead and put the sails back out, and we had a nice sail as we sailed north toward the Tchefuncte River. The wind was out of the south, and the waves were actually getting pretty big, so we decided we wanted to roll the sails in and lower them way before we actually got into that very, very shallow and narrow channel where you have to follow into the lighthouse. Take a look at here at the bow, pitching and rolling here as I'm pulling these sails in. It's almost hard to believe this is just a lake, but like I said, these waves got steep. And unfortunately, I didn't have stanchion blocks put back on to run the jib sheet back to the cockpit to the actual winch. So what I'm actually doing is sitting on the deck here and putting my foot up against one of the bases and sort of manhandling the jib return sheet in. It was a lot of work, but we were able to get it done that way. I went up front to just straighten up the lines here after I pulled the jib in, and what I want to do is just to put this in perspective. I'm 6 foot tall, so I want you to keep an eye on me and notice how high I go above the horizon and how far down below the horizon I go as we're hitting into these steep waves one after the other. Now we got everything stowed and turned back into the direction we ultimately needed to go. We needed to turn directly into the wind just to be able to get that jib rolled up. The entrance to the Tchefuncte River is actually a pretty narrow and shallow channel. The channel markers are not all that great. What we have found works the best is if you line up to the lighthouse and go straight toward the lighthouse, staying far to the west of the actual channel markers. And once you get past the very last channel marker, the one closest to shore, you swing about a 90-degree turn to the right. You're actually going east-northeast, which is what we're doing here. And then you run parallel to the northern shore of Lake Ponchartrain as you head eastward toward the mouth of the Tchefuncte River. If you go straight out where the river goes out into the lake, it's just it's a very, very shallow bar. So we are now kind of going directly into some of these waves that we were seeing here. And also, if you notice on the left-hand side, you'll see a sunken tugboat that's right near the entrance of the Tchefuncte River. That's usually our marker. You'll notice as we turn north here into the river how it immediately kind of calms down. We're now in protected waters of the river and not open to that fetch and wind waves that we were seeing on the lake itself. So now we just have about 2 miles or so north up the river before we get to the town of Madisonville and the swing bridge. Here's where our friends actually came out to meet us in their dinghy, which was kind of neat. Mommy's going to come up here so you can see her up here. Why? So I don't know. How do I... Okay.
That's how it's going.
Okay. Will you give me my phone?
Did you see it?
In that pocket of the chair?
So this particular bridge only opens every 30 minutes. So we called and waited, and when the bridge opened, we made our way through. And the boat show is actually going to be on both sides of this bridge in the upcoming weekend. So we just found us a little spot here along the wall. And for whatever reason, I don't have footage of us actually docking, but we did great. Once we were tied up and the boat was secure, it was now time to get everything back in ship shape.
Well, as you saw yesterday, we sailed the boat from the boatyard. After almost 11 months in the boatyard, we sailed her back out. It was beautiful. We had all sails up. It was rough on Lake Ponchartrain, really, really rolly, as you saw in the videos. But we got the boat tied up against the wall in Madisonville. It's actually going to be in a boat show this coming up week. So we have a ton of work to do. It was so rough on the water. Things are everywhere. I mean, it is a disaster down here. So we have work to do for sure. Say hi, baby. Deb's in the lower salon. That may be the cleanest room. Say hi, baby.
Hey! We're going to clean this cleaned.
Well, are you going to help clean too? Yeah, because we got to get your room ready, your stateroom all ready. But you're going to watch TV in the back and stay out of the way while I open up the floor, huh? Okay. Hi, Grandma. So we actually made progress. Like, that room down there looks pretty good. The salon's starting to. It was a disaster. To give you an idea, the freezer and stove top right there came out of its opening yesterday. Not that it was attached down. And
All kinds of stuff fell all over.
I thought this looked bad when I was doing the work on here. Hey, it's crazy looking. But unfortunately, one of the other things we ran into yesterday is we were about to leave the boatyard. We filled the water tank and the water pump wasn't coming on, the fresh water pump. So in order to clean, we need water. I need to get down there and figure out what's going on. So that's the first thing on the agenda for today. So the little one's gonna watch Netflix on my phone because that keeps her away from the big giant hole in the floor, and off we go. All right, so after checking it out, it appears to be the motor. It has 12 volts right up to it. I even went ahead and checked the pressure switch to see if I just needed to apply 12 volts beyond the pressure switch, and it still isn't working. So I'm running over to West Marine and picking up a new fresh water pump. What I suspect probably happened is at some point while it was down in the yard and the tanks were empty, the switch probably got clipped on, and it probably just burned up the motor. And you know, with all the work I've been doing down there, I could easily have bumped it. So maybe that's what happened, but we are on our way over there. We just took the first load of stuff out of the boat, so I've got the shop vac and a piece of old cushion I was using for when I was kneeling down doing work for a while that I didn't care if it got all ratty. So a good portion of this needs to either go back in storage because it's tools or in the trash because we're done with it, like that cushion. So we're going to go do that real quick and then come back and keep on working. But we need that water fixed so we can clean. Now we're coming up on the Madisonville Bridge here. Let's see what our baby looks like up along the wall. I'll be the first to admit I'm biased, but the girl looks sexy.
Well, the good news is West Marine did have the pumps in stock. They had a couple of different ones, and we were able to actually upgrade the pump a little bit, as a matter of fact, when we replaced it. So I was able to get that put in, fill the water tanks, and we have water. We're up and running, so that's great news. And it is good news because I have to head out of town for business tomorrow morning, and Deb's probably going to continue doing some of the work to get ready for the boat show. In the next week's video, we should be able to show you what it's like at the Madisonville Wooden Boat Fest. It's a good time, and it's the first time we've ever had the boat in the show. There's a neat history. Our boat was actually in this show in 2001, and when we first bought it, it had a plaque where it had been part of the show at that point in time. So we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please do share it with your friends. Give it a thumbs up and a like. We'll see y'all. Safe sailing.